All right, let's just jump right into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're taking a really hard look at a brewing crisis that is, quite frankly, posing an existential threat to the global aviation industry. I mean, if you've tried to book a flight recently, you've probably noticed something pretty terrifying happening at checkout. For decades, we've enjoyed incredibly accessible, cheap travel. But current global events, well, they're threatening to turn back the clock entirely. So today we're going to break down exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and crucially, what this means for your wallet. Because this is the burning question on everyone's mind right now. Are the days of cheap flying officially over? You know, for a long time, budget airlines and dropping fuel costs made it possible to literally hop on a plane for the price of a decent dinner. It was amazing, but recent geopolitical conflicts have sent this massive shockwave through the global economy, and the aviation industry, it's standing directly in the blast zone. We're looking at a very real scenario where affordable air travel might not just be taking a temporary pause, but fundamentally ending for good. To understand the disease here, we really have to look at the most immediate symptom. Right now, jet fuel prices in both the US and Europe have skyrocketed to a nearly 4-year high. And we're not talking about a little bump here. This is a massive, incredibly rapid spike that has left airlines completely scrambling. I mean, when fuel goes up this fast, the entire fundamental math of running an airline just completely breaks down.
Part 1. The global epicenter.
So, the conflict in the Middle East, specifically the tensions involving Iran, has led to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, you might be wondering, why does a strait halfway across the world matter to my summer vacation plans? Well, because the closure of this single geographic bottleneck has choked off roughly 20% of the global oil supply. Think about that. 1/5 of the entire world's oil is suddenly trapped and removed from the global market. That massive overnight reduction in supply is the direct catalyst sending prices absolutely sky-high.
Part 2. The industry shock. $15 billion. That is a staggeringly huge number, and that is what this crisis has potentially cost the airline industry in additional expenses so far. We are talking about hundreds of millions bleeding into the billions of dollars collectively, just in extra, unplanned fuel costs. Airlines are stuck holding the bag on these enormous, unexpected bills, and it is throwing their entire financial outlook into absolute chaos.
And the thing is, airlines are uniquely vulnerable right now. Fuel doesn't just make up a tiny fraction of an airline's budget, it is a massive 25 to 30% of their total operating costs. It's the lifeblood of their business. So when the price of fuel takes a massive hit like this, the airline's bottom line is just instantly obliterated. They simply can't absorb a hit to an expense category this large without fundamentally changing how they operate. It's just not possible.
Part 3. The consumer pain.
So what do? They pass those costs directly onto us, the passengers. Here is the immediate hit to your wallet. First off, they've upped bag fees, and industry experts are already noting that these elevated fees, they likely won't ever come back down, even if the price of oil stabilizes. Second, airlines are just immediately hiking baseline fares. And third, they are taking an axe of their schedules, completely cutting routes that have suddenly become unprofitable because they're just too expensive to run with these higher fuel costs. So we're getting hit from all sides. Less choice, higher fees, and way more expensive tickets.
Actually, United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby explicitly warned that ticket prices are rising. He came out and said flatly that the increase needs to be at least 20% just to offset these rising fuel costs. He noted that the airlines are probably absorbing about 50% of the cost on their own, but that other 50%? That is going directly into the pricing you see when you load up a travel site to book a flight.
Part 4. The casualties.
Now, it's really a tale of two entirely different business models right now. On one hand, you have major legacy airlines like Delta, United, and American. And despite everything going on, their business is actually still booming. Why? Well, because they have massive financial safety nets. They rely incredibly heavily on long-haul business class premium economy passengers, loyalty programs that bring in billions of dollars a year, and millions of people swiping their co-branded credit cards. But on the other side, the low-cost carriers, they do not have those premium cushions at all. They rely on incredibly thin operating margins, extremely high volume, and in a lot of cases, they literally only have enough cash in the bank to keep the lights on for a matter of weeks.
And that specific structural weakness led directly to a major casualty. We saw this happen with the total collapse of Spirit Airlines in May 2026. When they went under, they explicitly and publicly stated that they simply could not keep up with the skyrocketing cost of fuel. You know, these smaller, more affordable carriers, they're the ones that brought us into this golden era of cheap travel. But without the massive resources of those big legacy carriers, they are just being pushed completely over the edge.
And this builds into a massive, massive problem for all of us. When a low-cost carrier like Spirit goes under, it creates a severe ripple effect. Step 1. The budget carrier exits a specific market. Step 2. The competitive pressure completely vanishes. See, when budget airlines fly a route, the major airlines are forced to lower their fares to compete with them. But step 3. When that budget carrier dies, the exact opposite happens. The moment Spirit went out of business, fares on their former routes almost immediately skyked. Losing competition guarantees higher prices for absolutely everyone.
Part 5. The global fallout. Now, over in Europe, it's not just a pricing problem, it is a literal physical supply problem. European airlines are facing a massive looming fuel shortage. The head of the International Energy Agency, the IEA, actually came out and warned that Europe was literally running out of jet fuel because of that Strait of Hormuz closure. I mean, think about that for a second. It's not just that fuel is too expensive, it's that there might not be any fuel at all.
To put this in perspective, here's the timeline of how this European crisis has been escalating. Back in April 2026, the IEA warned there were maybe only 6 weeks of jet fuel left. To bridge the gap over the summer of 2026, officials had to scramble. They temporarily resolved the issue by tapping into emergency reserves, importing from other countries, and frantically redirecting fuel cargoes. But these are just stopgap measures. Officials have flat out stated these temporary fixes are only set to last through August 2026, so they're trying not to panic the public or spook the stock market. But man, the clock is ticking, and it's ticking really loudly.
Part 6. The new normal. So we have to face a really harsh industry reality here. If people flying on the major airlines are still willing to pay these higher prices right now, it begs the question, will fares ever actually come back down? Well, industry analysts suspect that airlines won't bring prices down voluntarily. Instead, they're going to 100% just ride the wave. They're banking on the fact that we, the passengers, are just going to accept these elevated fares as the new norm, in the exact same way we constantly accept inflation across the rest of the broader economy.
And if prices just keep climbing, the long-term systemic risks here are incredibly severe. If this tips into a full-blown crisis, we are going to see a much larger wave of bankruptcies among the remaining smaller carriers. That leads directly to industry consolidation, which means even less competition. We are talking about a massive loss of jobs, a loss of service to smaller cities, and a loss of nonstop flights. But perhaps most devastatingly, after 40 years of consistently dropping prices following airline deregulation, travelers with lower incomes could simply be priced out of flying altogether.
So, what does this all mean? The absolute crucial point is this. We are sitting at a crossroads right now, facing a genuine existential question for our modern society. Is air travel a transportation necessity that should be accessible to the general public? Or is it reverting back to a luxury privilege that is exclusively reserved for the wealthy? As the airline industry continues to prioritize its shareholders over maintaining an accessible national transportation system, we're really left wondering if this is just short-term economic pain or the beginning of a massive, permanent shift in who gets to fly. Definitely something to think about the next time you're about to click buy on a flight. Thank you so much